Okay, class. The last one that we need to talk about. So we talked about what? Sine. We talked about sine. Talked about cosine. Now we are on the tangent function, right? Y equals tangent of x. All right, so I have it pretty much set up. Notice I have my points that we love to use for parent functions. We have our pi over 2 pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi, right? And then you see these purple dashed lines. Once again, this is not day one of Algebra 2. You know, anytime there's a dashed line on a graph, you know that line does not really exist, and it's called the what, class? Good. The asymptote. So the tangent function has asymptotes. Notice where, and let's be clear, notice that this is the parent tangent function. How do I know it's the parent? It's nothing multiplied, added, subtract. Y'all, we've done this before, okay? So even though we're distance learning, this is not day one, right? All right, so the parent tangent function has asymptotes. It looks a little different from the sine and cosine function. It does not have the same wave pattern. It still has a wave, but instead of it continuing from left to right, it kind of continues top to bottom. Okay, it's a little different. So you can definitely tell if you are looking at a tangent function. Okay, so the easiest thing to understand, go from asymptote to asymptote through the x-axis at our points that are not asymptote points. So we're going to go through the x-axis at 0 from asymptote to asymptote. So from asymptote to asymptote, that's one piece of a tangent. From asymptote to asymptote through the x-axis. Right? And then I would have another, let's just say if I did have an asymptote at 5 pi over 2, at 5 pi over 2, I would have another asymptote, right? And remember, this is just a basic introduction class. I will go from asymptote to asymptote, and I will go through what point on the x-axis? 2 pi, from asymptote to asymptote. So you can tell a tangent function. It's easy to distinguish if it's a tangent versus cosine and sine. Okay? So those are just the three. I have not used any vocabulary. All I did was try to show you guys really quickly what they look like and how, if you caught on to how you can tell if it's a tangent, cosine, or sine. So real quick, and then we're going to get into these properties. Give me 1 second to just get the board clean, please. Hopefully, everyone is safe. You and your families are well. Please, you know me. We're not going to do any stressing. We're going to handle this thing like we are. Tough. Okay? So, this is distance learning. This is new for you. This is new for me. This is a time in our lives we will never forget. We are all part of history. We're going to get through this together. And then we'll move on. Okay? You know me. Everybody's going to do what? Succeed and move on. All right. Last video. Or last comment for this video. I just want to make sure you all understand how to quickly, easily distinguish. So when you're looking at a sine function, parent sine function, for purposes of Miss Swain's Algebra 2 Curriculum 2.0 MCPS packet, a sine function will start at the origin. And the first thing it's going to do is increase. And then it's going to come down and do what it needs to do. So sine functions, look at it at the origin. If at the origin it increases first, sine function. Got that? Let's take a look at the next one. Just give me a second. Give me a second, please. I don't like the board to be dirty. I want you all to see this very clear. 1 second. All right. if parent function, if you're looking at the parent cosine function, it will always start at the maximum point, which is 1, right? The maximum point, which has a name. If it starts at its maximum and it comes down first, then this is an indication that it's a cosine function. So sine function increases first. Start reading it at the y-axis. If you start on the y-axis and it comes down first, cosine function. If you were to start reading the function y-axis, and the first thing it does is increases first, sine function. So it's easy to tell, even though they make waves. So somebody be like, well, how am I supposed to know? I just see a bunch of waves. So put your eyes on the y-axis. Find the point on the y-axis. If it increases first, sine, y-axis. If it decreases first, cosine. And, 1 second please to erase the board. And if you look at the last trig function, the last one, right? This is the last one. And you see what? You see asymptotes. That's the trig function. It doesn't really look anything like the cosine or sine. Okay, so real quick, and then we'll talk about what pages we need to do on some practice problems. Put your eyes on the y-axis. For sine and cosine, put your eyes on the y-axis. Find the point on the y-axis. Sine functions will always increase first from that point on the y-axis. Cosine functions will always decrease first for the parent function. These are the parent functions. No transformations, nothing tricky, just basic parent function. The cosine function will decrease first from that point on the y-axis. The tangent function just looks altogether different. Hopefully this helps for distance learning. We talk about distance learning, you have to make things as simple as possible. But I do that anyway, don't I?